Hey guys, today we're going to be talking about numbers in Python. So numbers are very important because just with any other data type in Python, whether it be strings, lists, dictionaries, sets or tuples, booleans, different types of data are going to be useful for how you construct your actual scripts and programs in whatever programming language that you use. So my last video on strings, that was a very long video, so I'm going to try to just make this quick because for the most part, numbers, whether they be integers or floats or decimals, are pretty relatively easy. So just be a quick overview of how to use numbers in Python, the simple operations you can do with that, and yeah, let's just get into it. This could be very useful on how to use this type of data. So essentially, there are three different types of numbers in Python. You have integers, which are basically just whole numbers. So like 1, 2, 3, 4, negative 1, 2, 3, 4, and it goes to a certain limit, but that's beyond the scope of this video. You have floats, which you can kind of just for shorthand think of as decimals, and complex numbers, which we won't get into. But I essentially just wanted to show you a couple of operators here. So instead of just writing the script here, we can actually just use um, Python and the interpreter, the Python interpreter. So here, Python. Because with this, I just want to show you the quick little operators. So with Python, you can just do 2 plus 2. That's an example of the addition operator, the plus symbol right here. Then you can do 2 minus 2, again, so the subtraction that you can do with numbers in Python. You can set variables from numbers as well. So let's say you want 4 plus 8, that should return 12. So if I call the variable b, I'm going to get 12 back. So just like with addition and subtraction, you have multiplication and division as well. So 2 times 5 equals 10. 2 divided by 1 should equal 2. So with multiplication, you have this asterisk or little star symbol. And for division, you have this forward slash. So there's a lot of other cool operators I want to show you with math or just integers in Python in general. Oh, and I forgot to mention, so for floats, which are basically just decimals in Python, uh, uh, that's essentially it. That's how you handle decimals in Python. But let's say you have a number like pi, so pi equals 3.14. So if I were to do a type of pi, you can see it's a float. So, but let's say I wanted to convert that to just a whole integer. You have a lot of cool functions that you can do conversions with, which will be very useful when you're trying to convert data to be a specific thing. So your program might only work if it's only integers or only strings or only floats. So you're basically just manipulating and cleaning your data with these type conversions. So let's say I wanted to basically change that decimal into just a whole number. I can use this built-in function with Python called int. So basically like integer. So whatever number you put into integer, it's going to convert it to that type if possible. So pi, let's set that to the variable c. So if I call c, now it'll be 3 because it rounded down and made that 3.14 decimal or float number into an integer. And same thing here. So let's say I wanted to convert this 3 to float. So now I want it to be 3.0. So now I would just reassign that. So float c, and this variable should return 3.0. So you can see basically if you want to use decimal points or not, you either use a float for decimal points or for whole numbers you use integers. So let's say that you have a float called number that's decimal 3.5, and you want it to basically like round down. You can actually use what's known as like floor division. So maybe you're dividing by something, but you don't want these decimal points. So you do a double forward slash by 1, and this should return 3, I believe. Yeah, 3.0. So it doesn't convert it, but you basically just round down. So it does the division, but rounds down. And then we just convert that 3.0 to an integer. And that floor divisions are really good when you have to use indexes for like looping, so for loops, while loops, and a lot of like programming interview questions as well. So how does Python handle like negative and positive numbers? So usually just any number, if you like assign it like this, it's going to be positive. If you want that to be negative, you just put a minus sign in front of it, and now you have a negative number. So there's a lot of built-in functions that you can use. So ABS, open parentheses, close parentheses, and then whatever number. So let's say you wanted the absolute value of -3. This is going to return 3. And that's just a simple math function you can use. So we already talked about converting integers to floats and floats to integers. So remember, you just use this and whatever number inside the parentheses, and same with float. So let's say we want to convert that 4 to a float. So that's how you do it. Let's say you want to basically convert that 4 back to an integer, so 4.0, and that's basically an easy way you can do that. So there's also a very important library that you can use if you're doing a lot of more complicated mathematical operations. And before we get into that, I'm just going to show you quickly how to do an exponent. So it's basically just a double multiplication. So let's say you want to get the exponent of 3 to the 4th power. So you just use these two multiplication symbols side by side, and that's basically equivalent to an exponent. So 3 times 3 times 3 times 3, I believe. And basically there's a lot of other cool built-in math functions. So besides ABS, you also have max, so you can compare two different numbers. So if you compare 4 and 5, it's going to return the max number, so 5. And if you want to use the min function, same thing. So you try to find the minimal value. So let's say -4 and 5. So this should return -4. So if I do min 4, 5, that should return 4. So again, these are the type of functions that you can use like in for loops and conditionals. So like if this equals that. And then also just like really helpful for programming interview questions. So you'll see it a lot in what's known as dynamic programming questions. And the final, very common built-in function I would want to show you is like rounding a number to a certain decimal place. So let's say round 3.534 to the basically 2 decimal places. So you can do that. So basically you just input the number that you want to round and then how many decimal places. So let's say you have a bigger number and you just want to round it to 4 decimal places. Basically that's how you do it. And then finally, like I was mentioning, there's a library that you'll want to know if you want to have more complicated mathematical operations. So maybe you want to do like rounding down to a floor, or like rounding up or rounding down, or even using like square root. So there's a lot of things you can do like with these operators I just showed you, but more often than not, you can just use functions that like very excellent Python developers have already created. So with that, you can import a built-in library from Python called math. So you'd use this keyword import space and then math and hit enter. So with that, now you can call basically a couple functions. So I'm going to show you 3 that are the most common. So let's say you want to round up math.floor 3.5, and that should round up to 4. Oh, sorry, floor. That should round down, so that's rounding down. And then the opposite, rounding up, that should round to up to 4, 3.5. And sorry, not floor, seal. So you're going to the ceiling instead of the floor. So math.floor is rounding down, math.seal is rounding up. And then finally, let's another common math method or function is square root. So let's say you want the square root of 25. It's 5. So these are just a couple of common math operations and number operations in Python, but essentially numbers in Python are relatively easy. You're, for the most part, going to be using whole numbers that are represented as integers, and then decimal numbers that are represented in floats. So you can do addition, subtraction, division, multiplication. You have all these built-in functions or methods that you can use with numbers, like converting integers to floats and floats to integers with the INT method and then the float method. And then also you have absolutes, you can absolute value, and basically you're just going to get used to this as you code more and more. But you're going to use a lot of these different data types like numbers, strings, lists, dictionaries as you create your own functions, which will be described or explained in a future video. But yeah, numbers are very easy to use in Python, and it's a data type that you really want to get to know, and hopefully this is a good overview on your journey. And I'll make sure to include some more documentation on the integers and floats and number data type in Python in the description below. But thank you guys for watching. Please like and subscribe if you got any value in this video, and thank you for everything. Cheers, guys.